So we started discussing yesterday the issue when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, the question regarding Kiddush. So there's two parts to the question. There's a question for everybody, actually men and women, because as we know the Gemara in Brachos tells us, Daf Chotam and Beis, Nashim Chayavis B'Kiddush Hayom Dvar Torah. Women are obligated in Kiddush Friday night just as much as men. It's a mitzvah aseh shazman groma. That's what the Gemara tells us. Kol sheyeshnu b'shmira, yeshnu b'zechira. Whatever's included in Shmira Shabbos is also included in Zechira Shabbos. So therefore, we learn out that women are chayav. So it is a question for both men and women. So it's a question. The first part of the shaila is stam, anyone, even someone who's not going to eat. Is there a chayav of kiddush? And secondly, if you're a cholesh yesh bo sakana, if you're someone who's chayav to eat, so then would you have to make kiddush first? So regarding the first question to be discussed, that according to the Rambam's shita, that kiddush minat Torah you fulfill with words alone, and the Magen Avraham extends the Rambam, and not just words alone. The Rambam writes words of praise and special shevach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu about Shabbos, and the Magen Avraham says, based on that, when you make the bracha Makadesh HaShabbos in the Friday night Shmon Esrei, you fulfill your mitzvah. So therefore, it should come out then, and in fact, I said that was the Magen Abraham's proof. How do I know this is true? That you yotze your mitzvah of Kiddush Minat Torah through Tefillah, because what do we do this Friday night? We're not going to take out a cup of wine and make Kiddush, or we will be making a Shechiyanu the night of Yom Kippur, but we're not going to be saying a Boer Priya Gafen. So the same way you yotze Kiddush this Friday night, you yotze the mitzvah of Kiddush. In other words, it's Kiddush or Chud and Yom Kippur. There's a Yom Kippur aspect to the day, and there's a Kiddush aspect. So the Shabbos aspect doesn't change according to the Magen Avraham, and therefore the same chiyuv you have all year round, you have Leil Yom Kippur. The only difference is, as we mentioned, the Dogam Ravava asked, there's usually a problem if you yotze Kiddush and Tefillah, because then how could you go back and be mot to your wife? So putting that shaila aside, we said, but the Magen Avraham shita is, you could be yotze. The shaila is, mitzvah svichas kavana. Mitzvahs require kavana. So normally we say don't have kavana, so you could go home and be yotze Kiddush together, the rice of Rabbanan. So tonight, according to the Magen Avraham, then one would have to have in mind that when they daven Friday night Shmon Esrei, they're fulfilling the mitzvah and Torah in Kish, and that's the minig in different yeshivas, and we'll see about Ohev Tzedek. We'll find out Friday night what the minig is, whether they announce one should fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush Friday night and fulfill the mitzvah and Torah of Kiddush. So according to the Rambam, there's no stira. Yom Kippur Uchud, Shabbos Uchud. What's the problem of saying words of Shevach? When Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, it's still Shabbos. The fact that it's Yom Kippur, Lo Malad, Lo Mored, doesn't make it, it's not better, it's not worse, and therefore, that's how one fulfills the mitzvah of Kiddush Friday night. The shaila is, what about those who hold that the chiyuv of Kiddush Minat Torah, so if it's over a cup of wine, so Pash is over a cup of wine, wouldn't necessarily be an obstacle unless a gzeira d'Rabbanan, that the problem is if you're holding a cup of wine, so then doesn't make you're concerned you'll make a bar priya gafen and you end up drinking it. So therefore, that wouldn't be a good idea. But according to the shita, that drinking the wine is minat Torah, so clearly then, there seems to be then, there is no mitzvah of Kiddush then, because if the mitzvah minat Torah is Kiddush al yayin, so then obviously you have an Issa Daraisa, a chiyuv kares, to eat or drink on Yom Kippur, so clearly I can't go ahead and drink the cup of wine. So according to that sheet, it would be that you can't view Yom Kippur and Shabbos separately. It's all together because it involves the mitzvah of Kiddush. So the question is, so it seems to be according to the Magen Avraham, According to those shitas, the whole like the Rambam, it should be no problem. You make Kiddush by davening Friday night, or even saying words of Shevach. You don't necessarily have to say words of Shevach about Shabbos. But according to the shitas, the Kiddush al Yayin is Torah, so we could see why they never instituted to make Kiddush at all. So Pashas, the difference would be that according to the Magen Avraham, so in theory there's a chi of Kiddush, so then the shaila is someone who is eating beheter, a cholesh yesh bo sakana, so what's the shaila then? If you don't have the chi of Kiddush, then there's nothing to talk about. If you hold there's a chi of Kiddush, then what is the cholesh yesh bo sakana who is eating a full meal because he has to? Would he make Kiddush on Yom Kippur Shachol B'Shabbos? So, according to the Magen Avraham, one could entertain the shayla, and I think that's the shita of Rabbi Akiva Eger. Rabbi Akiva Eger at least is mesupik about it. He discusses perhaps on Yom Kippur Shachol B'Shabbos, one would have a chi of Kiddush. That either he comes out that way or he's mesupik, but he's the one who discusses it. He might even leans to saying it. And there's an interesting Or Sameach. The Or Sameach says, no, according to everybody, even if you hold like them, well, he's cholek on the Magen Avraham. According to the Magen Avraham, an average person fulfills the mitzvah of Kiddush by davening Friday night. The Or Sameach is going to say a big Kiddush, that it's true every Friday night we have a chiyuv of Kiddush, and it could be every Yom Kippur we don't have a chiyuv of Kiddush. But when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, it's a different halacha. He wants to say, he gets into the issue of shtei kedushas achas. So the Or Sameach says that when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, it becomes a fused kedusha. It's like a Kippur Shabbos, however you want to call it. Yom Kippur Shachol B'Shabbos kedusha. That it's a combination, and therefore you can't separate the two. So when Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos, there never was a mitzvah of Kiddush. Not that there's a chi of Kiddush and we have to worry about what to do. That's only on a regular Shabbos. But a Yom Kippur Shachol B'Shabbos, the Kedushas become fused, and then there never was a chi. He has a raya from different karbanos, that different karbanos of the day, even a regular karban has nothing to do with a certain day. Let's say a regular karban has nothing to do with the day, but on Shabbos or on different days takes on the kedusha of that day. So he wants to say, in fact, we have a discussion, the Torah quotes, that we know the halacha is, if you forget Ya'aleh v'Yavo in benching, so it depends. If you forget Ya'aleh v'Yavo, well, it's just if you forget Ritzei on Shabbos, so you have to go back. Except for Shalom Shuddah, since there are those shitas that say you don't have to have a Suda. But on Yontif, if you forget Ya'aleh v'Yavo, you do go back. Rosh Chodesh, no, the rule of thumb is, if there's a Chiyuv Suda, you have to go back. If there's no Chiyuv Suda, you don't have to go back. So, Ritzei on Shabbos, you go back. Ya'aleh v'Yavo, Yontif, you do have to go back. So the Shaila, the poskim discusses, what about when Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos? So a person said Ritzei, if you forget Ritzei, there's nothing to talk about. But let's say you said Ritzei, but you left out Ya'aleh v'Yavo. So Pashtus, you don't go back. However, I think the Torah quotes from Rav Yechiel that no, when Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, you do go back, because since it is the day of Shabbos, so therefore it's the Chiyuv Suda, even though the Chiyuv Suda is coming out to the Kedusha Shabbos and not the Kedusha Rosh Chodesh, nevertheless, the Torah quotes a Machokas among the Gaonim, the Rishonim, whether on Rosh Chodesh, Shachol, everyone agrees on a Rosh Chodesh, B'chol, you don't go back. There's a Machokas among the Rishonim, Gaonim, on a Rosh Chodesh, Shachol, B'Shabbos, whether you go back or not. So what's the Nakuda? The Nakuda seems to be, obviously if you hold it's the din in Rosh Chodesh, so therefore you don't go back. But if you hold that it becomes a new Kedusha, that Rosh Chodesh combines with Shabbos, and maybe this is what to talk about. So either way, that's not, we paskin anyway, no. We paskin that you wouldn't go back, but where does the sheet who holds you do go back? What's his source? So the Torah quotes, the source is when Yom Kippur Shachol b'Shabbos. So we know on Yom Kippur, whether it falls out during the week or falls out on Shabbos, we daven, we have 5 tefillot. We have, Kol Didri, it's not a tefillah per se, but till Ma'ariv, Shacharis, Musaf, Mincha, and Ne'ilah. So we usually have 3 on a regular day, 4 on a Yontiv, and 5 on, and that's why, that's why we see the Muslims, everyone in a certain sense follows Judaism, So the Muslims like Yom Kippur, that's why they're always fasting, and they daven 5 times a day every day. We assume there's only one biblical fast, and there's only one day you go, it's only, and also only one day you daven 5 times, and only one day basically that on Rosh Hashanah you go down on your knees. Those are things they do all the time. So either way, so what was the raya? So that's true every year, but this year when Yom Kippur Shachol b'Shabbos, so he quotes a shita that if in the Elah you left out Shabbos, even though the Elah is a din in the Italian seaboard, nothing to do with Shabbos. If it's Shabbos, you don't daven the Elah. The only reason you're davening the Elah because it's Yom Kippur. So if you said the whole Ne'ilah, but you left out the parts about Shabbos and the Shemona Esrei, so he says the halach is you have to repeat the Ne'ilah, you have to repeat Shemona Esrei. And in fact, we paskin this way. So we do paskin like, we paskin on Rosh Chodesh Shachol b'Shabbos, you don't go back. If you said Ritzei and left out Yalav Yavu, you would not go back. But we do paskin, we don't like the Nimshol, but we like what he's saying is true about Ne'ilah. Why is the Nimshol not good? Because it's clear Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos are shtei kedushas. They have nothing to do with one another. So the fact that you left out, the fact that you said Ritzei and leaving out Yalav Yavu is not an impingement. But over here, that Yom Kippur and Shabbos, probably even Rosh Hashanah, it's Yom HaRichta, it's only midrabanan. I think the Rambam, based on the Gemara in Eruvin, that perhaps the only time you have Kedusha Achas is Yom Kippur Shachol b'Shabbos, because they both have the same Histori Malacha just about, in terms of Yom Kippur and Shabbos. So therefore, that's Kedusha Achas, so therefore it becomes a fused Kedusha, and therefore, even though the Elah is only connected to Yom Kippur, but when Yom Kippur Shachol b'Shabbos, it takes on a fused Kedusha. So that's what the Or Sameach writes here, that really he says there's no Chi of Kiddush at all. There's nothing to talk about. For anyone, there's no mitzvah of Kiddush. And you don't have to have a mind in davening because there's no mitzvah of Kiddush. And he says, someone who's a Cholish Yesh Bo Sakani eats, there's no Kiddush. Because why? Because when Yom Kippur Shachol b'Shabbos, it takes on a fused Kedusha. It's a different type of Kedusha. Kedusha's Yom Kippur b'Shabbos, and that day there was no Chi of Kiddush. So the whole question falls off. So therefore, it comes out that there's a discussion whether there's a mitzvah at all of Kiddush. So according to the Magen Avram, yes, and one should have Kavana in the Shemona Esrei to fulfill the mitzvah min Torah of Kiddush. According to Or Sameach, what Kavana? There is no mitzvah of Kiddush, because when Yom Kippur Shachol b'Shabbos, it becomes a fused Kedusha, and that day there is no Chi of Kiddush. Just like we pass him by Ne'ilah. If one says Ne'ilah and leaves out Shabbos, you still have to go back and repeat the Ne'ilah because it's a Kedusha Achas, and therefore it takes on a fused Kedusha. I think the minig seems to be, I don't know for sure, but I think the minig, I don't know if you already have a minig on this, but I think people go with whether they go with the Or Sameach Lamdis or not, but I think not that I would know, but I don't think people make Kiddush on Yom Kippur, those who have to eat. I think the minig is not to make Kiddush, but I guess there could be different minhagim. I think the minig seems to be more like the maskana of the Or Sameach, that either because of his Ramdis, or even if you disagree with his Ramdis, for other reasons we don't make a Kiddush, one a Cholesh Yesh Bo Sakan who has to eat, doesn't make a Kiddush this coming Friday night. The Darkei Moshe brings down the minhag of going to the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur. So he brings down the Yesh Omrim Tam Tzvila Zu Shel Yom Kippurim, the reason behind the minhag of going to the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur. Lav Mishum Kari tells you why, the reason he doesn't think it's from. He says Lav Mishum Kari, as we'll see, as some Mefarshim say, Elo Mishum Dave Kagir HaMiskayer Titzarech Tvila. He says it's based on the halacha of a ger sheniskayer, someone who converts to Judaism. He's like a katan shenoa dummy. So a person goes to the mikvah, you want to show God to someone else, you come out of the mikvah a new person. That's what he, and the Hari Kedem quotes from the Rambam in Perek Beis Halacha Dalet in Hilchos Tshuva, Midarkei HaTshuva Lios Hashiv, and then he goes on, Inei Mavur B'divrei Ramzel Koach Shel Tshuva Lahafach Es Agav La'adam Acher Ve'inu Osa Ish Shachata. You're not the same person who sinned, and therefore that's the Yisod Inyan Hageris Shabbat, and that's what Kager Sheniskaya Kakatan Shenoa Dami. So that's Shoresh HaMinhag Shel Tefillah B'Erev Yom Kippur. So the Yisod of the minhag of going to the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur, that's Midin Tshuva, that Lahafach Le'ish Acher, and that's how the Selevan explained as well. There's a Machlokes to Machaber Ramah regarding Birkas Kohanim, a Kohen Shaharag. Well, the Gemara talks about it, a Kohen Shaharag, you can't do duchening. So the Machaber writes, I feel Baharag B'Shogeg. So the shaila is, what about tshuva? But that's a Machaber Sham, according to the Machaber, tshuva doesn't help. But according to the Ramah, the Masa tshuva no sekapav. So what's in the Kudas HaMachlokes? So that's where Rav Soloveitchik explains that the Yesh Roma Dechashev Kiburi Chadasha Acha Shanase Tshuva. So Ramah seems to go that you're a Azel L'Shitasum B'Darkei Moshe. He's following the Darkei Moshe, as we started off with. Kager Sheniskaya Kakatan Shenoa Dami, and therefore it's Midin Tshuva. So that's the Maharal, the Mario, and others, the Darkei Moshe, Rav Soloveitchik in the Hari Kedem, that the reason for the minhag of going to the mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur is out tshuva. Others point out the Darkei Moshe that not because of Keri, but others say it is because of Keri, because we know there's a famous Takanas Ezra. The Gemara tells us in Brachas Chav Beis Amid Beis that Ezra instituted that before one davens or before one learns Torah, you must tovel in the mikvah. However, that was something that was very difficult to keep, and so the Yehuda Meseir talks about how the original Takanas Ezra was bato. So there's a machlokas in the Rishonim, the Rambam and the Ravid. Was it completely nullified or only partially? So the Rambam's opinion is that both regarding davening and both regarding learning, me'ikar adin, one does not need tefillah. Well, B, the Rambam himself was a closet chassid. He himself writes that he was machmer. He did go to the mikvah. And so it was only instituted, it was repealed completely, and therefore you don't have to go. And the Rabbi says no, it was only repealed for Torah, but for davening you have to go. So the Rambam was machmir, but we paskin all year round, like the Rambam that you don't have to go. So since it's a machlokes, the Rambam Ravid on whether it still applies, so therefore Mikar Din we don't go, but for Erev Yom Kippur we're machmir, we go with the Ravid and we go to the mikvah. So some say it's out tshuva, others say it's out keri. There's a third shita. There's another shita in the Rishonim. There's a whole discussion in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Tez Zayin Amud Beis, and the Rambam paskins this way as well, that the Gemara tells Chayiv Adam Latar Atzmo Berego. A person has an obligation when they enter the Yom Tovim that they should be pure. So why? Why should they be tar? So the Rambam spells it out, because since you have to go, you have a mitzvah of Ola Rego on the Shosh Regoim, and you have to eat from the Karbanos, so therefore you have to be pure. However, it's Masha from the Rambam then. However, Erev Yom Kippur, there's no need. You can't say you can't say you're going to the mikvah because of Chayiv Adam V'Tar Atzmo Rego, because there are no Karbanos on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and even if there was, we don't have any today. So according to the Rambam, you can't say it's based on Chayiv Adam V'Tar Atzmo Rego. However, others disagree. The Skla quotes Rashi and Beya and others that clearly they hold there is a chiyuv to go on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, as well as the Shosh Regoim. Chayiv Adam V'Tar Atzmo Rego. It's not just a din in Hachana for Karbanos, it's an independent mitzvah. The one has to be pure on the Yom Tovim. And therefore, we have three shitas on why one goes to the mikveh erev Yom Kippur. It's out tshuva, ger sheniskaya kakatan shenola dami. Is it out bal keri to remove the keri? With machmir on erev Yom Kippur like the Ravid. Well, no, it's a din of chayiv adam v'tar atzmo v'regel. But the Shaila, according to the Rambam, it wouldn't be based on that. According to others, you just have to enter the Yontiv B'Tahara. So there's a famous Rav Sajagon. Rav Sajagon not only holds Paskins, you have to go to the mikveh erev Yom Kippur, but he says, Sarach Uvarach, one should make a bracha before immersing in the mikveh. And the Rosh disagrees and says, with it being machmir for shitas ravid on tumas keri, and therefore there's no mitzvah, no minig, and therefore no bracha is warranted. So what's the pshat in Rav Sajagon? Why does Rav Sajagon say to make a bracha? He say maybe it's based on the din, as we said, of chayiv adam v'tar atzmo v'rego. Maybe it's a kiyum of that, or maybe he holds that it's like the Mariel out tshuva. There's that type of minig, even though we don't make a bracha on tshuva in general, but the minig of going to the mikveh erev Yom Kippur you do. And or maybe he says that maybe we do paskin like the Ravid, and therefore we paskin like the Ravid, even though he doesn't say to make the bracha all year round. But on Erev Yom Kippur, the minhag is to follow the Ravid because we want to be more machmir, because it's more difficult to keep that to his drops. You want to show we're going the extra, just like we take on other chumras of Pas Yisrael and other chumras, and therefore that's the reason. So we have a minhag to go to the mikvah erev Yom Kippur. It's codified in the Shulchan Aruch. No bracha. If Saji goes to his bracha, we say no bracha. And either the minhag is based on the general halacha of chayav adam v'tar atzmo v'rego. That means so it wouldn't be limited to erev Yom Kippur. It's a dinner all year round. Others say it's out keri, to remove the keri. It's we normally pass them like the Ram and we'll machmar erev Yom Kippur. Or you have the Mario and others that it's out ger sheniskaya kakatan shenola dami, it's out tshuva, and therefore we go ahead and we tova on the mikvah on erev Yom Kippur. We celebrate Yom Kippur we want to show God we're changing, we're becoming better, and we want to go ahead and do from mitzvah to mitzvah. So we go from fasting on Yom Kippur, we go from eating on Erev Yom Kippur, fasting on Yom Kippur, eating after Yom Kippur, to building a sukkah. Some have a minhag of starting last night, but most begin either if you have it up, it's fine. You have within 30 days of Sukkot, as long as you just put it up within 30 days, the Sukkah is fine. But many build a Sukkah today. So we know we have had many mitzvahs. We just had the mitzvah of shofar, and also on Sukkot we're going to have the mitzvah of daled minim, lulav, estrog, etc. So we know, practically speaking, I'm sure they'll be coming soon. We want to get them fresh. But if you don't have a lulav and estrog, you're not going to be able to do the mitzvah of tzitzis. I didn't say if you didn't buy one, because halakhically speaking, you have to own it. L'kachtem lachem. You have to own, when you do the mitzvah, you have to own your own daled minim. That doesn't mean you have to buy one. It doesn't hurt either, hiddur mitzvah. But let's say someone can't afford to buy one, or you don't have one. So you borrow from a friend, v'atana almanas lahagzir. In other words, as long as I'll give you, it's yours for the next 30 seconds or the next minute, it becomes yours. You could fulfill the mitzvah. So as long as it's halakhically owned, doesn't mean you have to actually physically own it. As long as and that's only the first day. That when you shake the daled minim, it will be on Thursday morning, which is the biblical mitzvah this year. The rest is only d'Rabbanan, is rabbinical. But one has to own it, so if you don't actually buy your own daled minim, so you have to own it at the time you do it, so whoever gives it to you is giving it to you on the condition that you'll return it, after you're finished. So practically speaking, the mitzvah is actually shaking the daled minim, but the hechsher mitzvah is buying it. In other words, obviously, if you don't end up buying, or you don't have access, I should say, to the daled minim, you won't be able to do the mitzvah. If you don't have access to a shofar, you're not going to be able to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, we have a principle in general. Hechsher mitzvah is the preparation stage, and the actual mitzvah is the fulfillment. And that's what we have to add. That's why the Rambam writes, the blowing of the shofar is the preparation. The actual mitzvah is the hearing. So too with daled minim. The actual mitzvah is to have access to it. When you actually shake it, Thursday morning you get the mitzvah. So is the mitzvah of sukkah any different? So when are we going to sit in the sukkah, hopefully? Weather permitting, perhaps the first night, even if weather is not permitting, we'll be sitting in the sukkah. But the first night, Wednesday night, is the first night of Sukkot. So clearly we fulfill our mitzvah of yeshiva sukkah, of sitting in the sukkah Wednesday night. And let's assume we're going to build the sukkah this morning, today. So that would be the hechsher mitzvah. That's the preparation. Is there anything different between the building of the sukkah versus buying the shofar or having access to the daled minim? Is there any? So clearly there's a mitzvah to sit in. Is there a mitzvah to build the sukkah, or it's just a heicha timsa? If I want to fulfill my mitzvah of sukkahs, I better get a sukkah ready because it's very practical. As they say, if you don't prepare your food on Erev Shabbos on Friday, you're not going to eat on Shabbos. Is this the practical idea? You meant to tell us to build the sukkah, but there's no mitzvah to build it. The mitzvah, or no, maybe it's even more than just buying the daled minim or buying a shofar. So that's what the Netziv points out, that the mitzvah building the sukkah is more than just a plain preparation, but there's a mitzvah to build the sukkah. It's what he calls, there's a regular hechsher mitzvah, a regular preparation mitzvah, but then there's something called a hechsher mitzvah haksuva b'Torah. It's when the Torah itself talks about the preparation. So it says, Chag HaSukkos taseh lecha. It uses the word asiyah, even though the context is different, but they learn out from that pasuk that there's a mitzvah of asiyah sukkah. Not only is there a mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah, but there's a mitzvah of building the sukkah as well. And in fact, what's the practical difference if I say there's a mitzvah of building the sukkah? There's no mitzvah of building the sukkah, but if you don't build the sukkah, you're not going to have it either way. We have to build the sukkah. So one difference the Gemara gives, the Gemara in the beginning of the second parak of Kedushin, when it talks about marriage, that I'm not recommending it, but if you can't make it to your own wedding, there is a concept of sending a shliach, sending a messenger. but that's for a separate discussion. But we see mitzvah bo yotir mishrucho. But if it's a heksha mitzvah ksuva b'Torah, see, for the dalet minim, there's no difference. If you tell someone, pick up my dalet meaningfully, pick it out, that's fine. There's no difference. Comes to a Thursday morning, if they picked out a good one, you're in good shape. If they didn't, you're in bad shape. It doesn't change who did it. But by sukkah, mitzvah bo yotir mishrucha, there's a special mitzvah for you to build your own sukkah. Of course, let me point out that I'm talking about halachically speaking, not in real life. So of course, yes, you can get your handyman to help build your sukkah. And what's for our purposes, all you have to do is put up a little bit of schach. If you put up a little schach and move it around, because sukkah comes from the word schach, that's what is the sukkah. And therefore, you don't actually, it doesn't hurt. If you're capable, you can do it yourself. But if you're not capable, lazy, whatever you want to call it, you can just move around the schach. Ryan.
The conversation here reminds me of Badika's comments that if
might go on.
It's a mitzvah to do it, but if you don't plan on staying in your house, you don't have to do it.
Right. So you're saying it. Well,
is there a similarity?
Well, we're saying, the Tziv is saying it's not that way. But let's assume that's true. There's a way. Let's assume you're going to wait for the whole Pesach. So then it's a whole discussion whether it's recommended now. Whether some people want to sell their homes. So that's right. So assuming that's okay, which is a question. So that's what we. Yeah, but we're saying sukkah is not that way. No, but no one would say, but it is the same way. No one would say that if you don't plan on if you're going away for sukkahs to Los Angeles, no one says you have to build a sukkah. Right? In that sense, no one takes it that far. Even if you hold there is a mitzvah, it's only if you're going to use it. No one says, you know what, let's get another building the sukkah for no sit. That's right. So it's not the same level as actual mitzvah, but so one difference is do it yourself. Another difference is the Yerushalmi writes is, you know what, I don't know if any of you is going to follow the Yerushalmi, but the Yerushalmi writes, when you're building the sukkah today, you'll make a bracha. You'll asos, sukkah. When you build the sukkah, whether it's, well, I guess assume one should put the schach up, because that's the mitzvah, you make a bracha, whatever the text would be is, asiyah, al asiyah sukkah. So we don't go that far. As the Yerushalmi Paskins, you even make a bracha on a heksher mitzvah. Other examples that the Netziv is talking about, not that you make a bracha, that there's an Indian of doing yourself, would be the mitzvah of sitzis. V'asu ahem sitzis. Again, it says asiyah. There's a mitzvah of making the sitzis. Or some say, uksav tam amezuzos beisecha, the mitzvah mezuzah. If you're a sofer, if you're not a right, there's a mitzvah. But anytime the Torah talks about the preparation, so it's not just a regular preparation, but you yourself should do it. And according to the Yerushalmi, you should make a bracha. Are we going to make a bracha today? No. So does that mean we reject the Yerushalmi and we hold there is no mitzvah to build the sukkah? Not necessarily. That the Bavli says nowhere about making a bracha. That's clear, and you're not going to make a bracha. But perhaps it's not a fundamental mitzvah on whether building maybe everyone agrees building a sukkah is a mitzvah. If we hold it's a mitzvah, so we always make a bracha before we do a mitzvah. So how could we say it's a mitzvah to build a sukkah and still not make a bracha? But it comes from a Rashi in Makkas. Rashi in Makkas says the cutting of the wood. You have to go outside, cut down your trees, and then you take the wood and then you build. He says the cutting of the wood isn't a mitzvah. What are the implications? Cutting down the trees are in a mitzvah, but the actual building of the sukkah is a mitzvah. So why don't we make a bracha if we hold it's a mitzvah? So it's a local hilchas brachas issue. The machlokas Yerushalmi Bavli isn't on whether building a sukkah is a mitzvah. Everyone agrees it's a mitzvah. The issue is hilchas brachas. We go asiyasa higmar mitzvasa. The Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud says you even make a bracha on a tchilas mitzvah, even when you begin a mitzvah. And we paskin no. Even though it's true it's a mitzvah, but the mitzvah doesn't actually, the Gemara mitzvah doesn't begin until Wednesday night, until we actually sit in the sukkah. So we don't make a bracha until we actually fulfilling the mitzvah. We don't make it on the tchilas mitzvah, we make it on the Gemara. So even though we agree that it is a mitzvah to build the sukkah, but we don't make the bracha because in Ilchas brachas we paskin, we don't make the bracha to the end. How do I know that we assume, according to the Bavli, that it's a mitzvah? Because the Ran tells us that it's true, even though you don't make a alasiya sukkah today, but if one did make a shechiyanu, it would be okay. Our meaning is not to. Our custom is we wait till Leil Sukkot. Don't wait till Leil Pesach. Or you will make a shechiyanu then also. Wait till Leil Sukkot and you'll make a shechiyanu when you make kiddush. But the Ran writes, if one made a shechiyanu, it would be fine. You could be yotze your mitzvah. It's not a bracha levatala. Because, so what do we see from the Ran? The fact that you can make a shechiyanu when you finish building the sukkah, obviously it must be a mitzvah. You can't just go around see the different types of shechiyanus. Let's go back a step. There's a shechiyanu of a minhag. What's a minhag of a shechiyanu? Let's say some people have a custom that if you buy some nice clothing, or if you buy a nice car maybe, or perhaps you have a new fruit you haven't had in a long time, so you make a bracha. So Reb Soloveitchik pointed out that he thinks today, and Rav Moshe Feinstein as well, he doesn't think today, unless it's a really special thing. In general, he says he felt not to make a bracha. He says because back in the day, what did you used to do? You get two new suits your whole life. When you became bar mitzvah, the Sims bash, you get at 13, and when you got married. But today, every 2 weeks, there's a sale somewhere, so it's not the same. It has to be something real. And Ramosha said the same thing about, let's say, fruits today. We live in a global fruitopia. Basically, for a couple extra bucks, you could get any fruit anytime. You walk in. There's no time. It's not really seasonal anymore. Again, some people, if you have a meaning, if you get excited from a new shirt, then go ahead. But, many say that today that's only a minhag anyway, buying new clothes, a new fruit. That's not a halacha of shechiyanu. Regarding the halacha of shechiyanu, you make a shechiyanu 2 times. One is you make on the Kedushas Hayom, when a Yontiv is coming, like Yom Kippur. The beginning of Yom Kippur, we made a shechiyanu. We're going to make a shechiyanu the night of Sukkot. All Yom Tovim, we make a shechiyanu. That goes on the sanctity of the day. There's a totally different shechiyanu you make on a mitzvah that you perform once a year, once in a while. So Sukkot hasn't come since last year. So we're going to make a shechiyanu on our 4 species. We're going to make a shechiyanu on the sukkah. So there's 2 different shechiyanus. There's a shechiyanu on a mitzvah, and there's a shechiyanu on the Kedushas Hayom. So the Ran writes that since we have 30 days, to build the sukkah, so in theory, if one would make a shechiyanu, it would be okay on the mitzvah building. That's not our custom. We wait on the shechiyanu till we have sukkah. In fact, this explains, there's a minhag many posts can bring down. You switch the order of Kiddush the night of Pesach from the first night to the second night. The first night you make the Kiddush, and then you make the Leishei Basukah, and then you make the Shechiyanu. The second night in most Siddurim it says you switch the order around. Kiddush still goes first, but you make a Shechiyanu, and then you make Leishei Basukah. Why switch the order? We usually do the same thing the second night we do the first night. Why switch the order? So the Ran explains, based on what we're saying, is because the first night of Pesach, first night of Sukkot, what is the Shechiyanu going on? It's the first time we start sitting in the Sukkah at night. We don't start shaking Daled Minim to the morning. So when you sit in the Sukkah Wednesday night, the Shechiyanu is going on the mitzvah of Sukkah, as well as the Kedushas Hayom, the sanctity of the day of Sukkah. So therefore Shechiyanu is going on both. When you make shechiyanu the next day, you already fulfilled your mitzvah of sukkah. Maybe it's not sukkah. It's really, maybe yesterday wasn't sukkah and today is. But we said, anyway, for the shechiyanu, we said even if you made it today, when you build the sukkah, the evidence okay, because it's going on the mitzvah. So that's why they explain. You switch the order. The second night, you already fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah, at least the mitzvah of building the sukkah, and therefore you can make the shechiyanu right after Kiddush, and then you make the leishei.